Am I on? I hope I'm on. Can you all hear me? I thought I'd stand up. Because every time I do this live, I'm to stream. God, what an idiot. Every time I do this live. Right. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. I'm crap at this. Penny bunny. I'm absolutely crap. Right, here we are. Okay, so I'm doing a live stream with a guy in New Zealand, an English guy. When I can eventually put the oh God, come on, Paz. Copy. That's the wrong one. Hey, right then. Copy, and the link is in. The link is in the chat. Can you all hear me? I hope you can hear me. So I'm waiting for a guy to come in now. Ian 174M. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's got a book on Amazon as well. I told you about it last week. And he came on board, but he was in his car and the signal was crap. So it's like, I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand now. Hello, moderators. Kate, Penny Bunny, Curious Bunny. Good. I don't think Shams is in yet, is she? Paz, give Kate. Kate's got a spanner. Oh, not again. Seriously? No, she doesn't have a spanner. Why did they do this? Oh, Penny Bunny's got a spanner still. Fuck me. Oh, here he is. Right. Ian. We made it.
Let's try sound.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Can you all hear him? I can hear you perfectly, so they must do.
Wow. It's working.
What's the time down there? It's early morning, isn't it?
Oh, I've got some nasty feedback here. Nasty.
Nasty? What do you mean?
It's 9 a.m. in the morning, so it's all right for me, Paz. I'm okay.
Oh, okay, fine. Okie dokie.
What I'm going to do, because I'm hearing it twice. I'm hearing you speak, and then 5 seconds later, I'm hearing it again. What I'm going to do is just close the YouTube channel.
Yeah, close that. Get rid of that tab.
Right.
And that should be perfect.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah, we finally made it.
We finally made it. So how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Still gulag dodging, as I say. Managed to survive another day out of the gulags.
Yeah.
But if there's any direction of travel, it's towards that direction. That's probably a little bit dramatic now. But the thing is, as you know, we have a government that is unchallenged.
Yeah.
Democracy is more or less on hold. We have a guy called Ashley Bloomfield, who is the Director General of Health, who has more or less total power to pass what orders he wants here in terms of locking down cities and passing mandates for professions.
Yeah.
And he's doing it. And there is no opposition, really. There is none. We don't have an upper house like a House of Lords, as you know. We have 120 MPs.
Yeah.
And we have a party called National, who are nominally like the Tories, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they're basically very quiet. They are saying very little against these mandates, against these lockdowns.
Do you think they've probably been paid off because Jacinda's been paying the mainstream media a lot of money, hasn't she?
Well, I mean, she's been paying the mainstream media millions. Yeah. millions and tens of millions. And I mean, you can probably see it in the coverage. I have no evidence to suggest that the MPs have been paid off, or whether they're controlled opposition. But the thing is, if you were going to create a controlled opposition,
yeah,
then this is exactly what it would look like. We have a guy. So I'm not saying they are, but this is what it would look like. We have a guy here called David Seymour, who is supposed to be nominally a libertarian. Mm. And he's been very quiet in the face of these mandates. He's not suggesting that people should have the choice whether to take the jab or not, without restrictions on their movements and their ability to earn a living. So there is effectively no opposition at all.
Well, I think in my couple of years now dealing with politics, I think if it looks like what you think it is, I think it is, because we've got Labour here in the UK, and they are controlled opposition. They don't oppose. They get paid millions from the taxpayer, I think to the tune of 8 to 10 million to oppose the government, but they don't. More often than not, they'll side with the government and just vote with them. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So I spoke to Lee Williams across the Rubicon not long ago, and he mentioned, how do you pronounce it? Is it, because I got told off, is it Maori or Maori? Or does it not matter?
Well, I might embarrass myself here, but I'm going to Maori. Maori.
Bloody
it's
hell.
like an M-O with a roll, I believe. It may be because it's a different language. My pronunciation may be wrong. It may be a little bit like me trying to speak Chinese, which I do. Yeah. With my girlfriend, and I'll say a word which sounds exactly like what she said, and she says, "No, that's you haven't said hello. You've just said toilet or something like that." Yeah. But anyway, Maori. Yeah, Maori.
The Maori. Is there a huge problem there with them, as in not as a group of people, but the top tier of their society? Because Lee Williams went on about them drinking from the trough, so to speak.
Yeah, the criticizing Maori issues over here in New Zealand is a bit like criticizing Islam in Europe to the power of 10.
Oh yeah.
Really, and it makes it very difficult to criticize individual Maori leaders or Maori politics. Yeah, and what Lee was doing was trying to draw attention to the way something called the Waitangi Tribunal, which is basically a tribunal set up to try and deal with Crown Maori issues and settlements in terms of money changing hands from the Crown to Maori, to do with a treaty that was signed between Maori and the Crown long ago. And many people see it as simply an ongoing gravy train for the transfer of taxation money to elite Maori at the top here in New Zealand. And it certainly does look like that. And there are various people, there are not many people prepared to speak out about it, but Lee was certainly one who dared to touch that third rail. And he was criticizing elite Maori, people at the top, the leaders, the Maori leaders. And one particular politician that he criticized strongly was a guy called Rawiri Waititi, who is the leader of the Maori party here.
Is that the guy with the cowboy hat?
It is the guy with the cowboy hat, yeah. And Lee did it by trying to mimic his accent. Now, he was simply mimicking the guy and his politics, but that was enough for the cancel culture mob here. And also someone called Debbie Narewapaka, who is one of the leaders of the Maori party, co-leader, I believe, to advertise on her Facebook page, not to start, to advertise on her Facebook page a petition which had been started to get Lee removed from his job. And of course, it was really, in some ways, it was meat and drink to the Twitter cancel mob, who were able to portray it, what Lee was doing, as an attack on Maori culture itself, which it wasn't. And therefore, to portray him, you know, of course, the mainstream media have an extremely one-sided narrative, and the supply of white supremacy over here far exceeds, sorry, the demand for white supremacy far exceeds the supply here in New Zealand. So anything that they could portray even slightly as that, they did. And of course, that's the label that they pinned to Lee. And there was a petition aimed at his workplace, and unfortunately they decided to terminate his employment because of that.
That's disgusting. Yeah. Because you've got your own YouTube channel and you have the same political mindset as Lee, is that correct? Did you feel like scared or any fear because of what they did to him? Did you think, oh, I best stop doing this, I best stop speaking out about this because they'll come for me next?
Yeah, of course I felt fear. Yeah, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel fear and apprehension. And anybody would be lying, I think. What I did, I mean, I've said this to you before, what I did when they were going after Lee, I simply just at that time hid my YouTube channel. I just put it on hide. Yeah. Because I thought it was a general purge. And what YouTube did was just delete all of my subscribers. I don't have nearly the number you have. Oh, I didn't have. I'd close to 2,000, nearly 2,000, but they just deleted them all overnight. Yeah. So I took a break from YouTube, but yeah, I can see the vultures circling a little bit on Twitter with me, but I'm probably a small potato at the moment and not worth it. But also because I don't really know that much about Maori history and Maori politics in general, I've tended to sort of stay away from it. And I think that can really be the third rail here in New Zealand. I mean, you know what it's like for the left. If you criticize feminist issues, if you criticize trans issues or issues to do with race, you're sticking the fork in the plug, you know.
Yeah, same here. Same here. You've got to be very, very careful if it's a progressive or a woke subject. You know, anything like that, then they'll come after you. They'll destroy you. And I find that scary that they could do that, because I thought all that shit ended with the Nazis and Soviet communism and the fall of the Iron Curtain. But if anything, it's just moved over. It hasn't stopped at all. It's here in the West now. It's cancel culture. It's I'm surprised my channel's still up. You know, my other channel was nearly gone. I had 2 strikes. So like you, I hid my channel. Everything I've done now is on Odyssey, even the bits that YouTube took off. But I've got nearly 13,000 on this one. God knows. But you just got to keep going, I reckon. I'm quite lucky because I'm employed by family. So, and I can show my face. I know other people can't, and that's a great shame. So cancel culture is quite rampant. Have you been linked with, it's a daft question, but I observe the lefties on Twitter, especially the ones in New Zealand. And
we know who they are.
Yeah, we know who they are. We shan't mention them as we get taken to court. And one of them is quite adamant to link people like Lee, but he hasn't linked you with the Christchurch mosque attack.
No, I wasn't involved in that attack.
No, I know you weren't.
Joking. No, we shouldn't laugh about such things. But this is where we're at. You know, I haven't been. Yeah, exactly. I haven't been accused of planning that yet.
Yeah. But it's only a matter of time.
But yeah, no, I mean, I haven't been linked with that mosque attack yet. But the thing is, you can see. I'll give you an example. When the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration was being signed years ago, you might remember, I think that's 2015. Maybe, that's right, maybe, or 17, I can't remember, a few years ago. My beef against it was really the fact that it was the anti-democratic issues, the fact that our government had signed it. And it had been drafted by unelected bureaucrats in the United Nations, without them, first of all, giving a referendum to the people or mentioning it in their manifestos at the previous election. And thirdly, to rub salt in the wound, it had been signed by a politician called Winston Peters, who had been, I guess, a little bit, you could loosely equate him with Nigel Farage. You might say that he would be careful about immigration. He'd been banging that drum for years. Anyway, I went into the public square and I gave a speech about these issues, and as well as the attacks on free speech, which are in that safe, orderly and regular migration compact. And Lee gave a speech, and there was also someone from the New Conservative Party called Leighton Baker, and we were all linked at that time in an article for being, of course, racist, because anything with the word immigration in it, we were all, yeah, we were all linked to, racist, Nazis, fascists. So that was an example. I mean, I was thrown into that at the time. And I get the occasional mention on the Twitter account in question that you're talking about. So the vultures kind of, it's like the eye of Sauron, the eye of Sauron scans around and it can see the big threats. And because Lee relative, if you look at the size of his YouTube channel relative to the New Zealand population, it's really a huge channel, to be honest. So he would have been seen as a threat and potentially someone who could influence public opinion sufficiently enough to move the dial of the electorate a little bit. And so the eye of Sauron, the Twitter eye of Sauron, focuses on that sort of thing. Whereas me, I'm just I'm the beetle running over Mordor at the moment. The eye of Sauron, it doesn't bother wasting its energy on me, But I have been at the moment, yeah. But yeah. I have been described as someone because of my book. I have been described as someone who has come to New Zealand to, and these are direct quote from the Twitter account in question, someone who has come to New Zealand to raise the number of bigots per capita.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean the eye of Sauron is constantly circling, and unless you are prepared, unless you are principled enough to want to take a risk, to stand up for free speech, to push back against the government, you're in a position like yourself where you can maybe afford to, or you can't really be cancelled, or you're at the stage where you're close to retirement and you can afford to lose your job or something like that. Then it basically has a chilling effect. And most people who are unhappy, of course, with the direction of travel of the government, if you're 35 and you've got a mortgage and you've got 2 kids, a wife who works part-time, you're going to look at this and go, well, I'm really not happy with what's happening here, but look what's happened to Lee Williams. Look at this Twitter channel. Look at the media are going to vilify for me for my opinions. I'm just going to keep quiet. And it's the chilling effect.
There's a website called, is it Stuff Newspaper? The mainstream, they're the biggest one down there, aren't they? Is all mainstream media down in New Zealand are they left-wing biased then? You don't have anything like Sky News Australia, which is centrist right-wing. Nothing like that in New Zealand.
Yeah, we have Stuff, which is, yeah. I mean, if you read it, I'm sure you would see that it's not impartial. I think many people would describe it as left-wing bias. There's the New Zealand Herald, pretty much the same. We have a radio channel called News Talk ZB, which is occasionally dips its toe to the right of centre, and then I think the eye of Sauron comes along and has a look. And I think there was a presenter called Peter Williams,
right,
who was kind of Nigel Farage light, diluted. And he's gone. I don't know whether he was booted out of the radio station, News Talk ZB. So the closest it gets is News Talk ZB that you can maybe ring up late on a Friday night and express a conservative opinion or two. But in terms of mainstream media, like Sky News Australia, there is none in New Zealand effectively. So people who are just reading mainstream media such as Stuff and New Zealand Herald and One News and the television are getting a very one-sided view of the story. I mean, just a small example today, there's a lawyer here called Sue Gray who is trying to push back against mandates for jobs. Okay. And she's been totally smeared, just a disgraceful smear. She's the only lawyer who is pushing back in court. She's been into court and argued her case. She's not just going onto the street and ranting and raving. She is going into court and arguing her case as a qualified lawyer. But Stuff have seen fit just to smear her, and there's now a complaint against her, and she may get even removed from being a qualified lawyer, which just goes to show how dangerous it is. I mean, she's simply doing her job and trying to hold the government to account. And she might lose her profession, her qualifications as a lawyer.
Oh yeah, they'll destroy her. They'll completely destroy her because she's against the mandate. Anyone who goes up against the mandate is you're gone. Do you think there's many? Do you think the Chinese government have a huge influence in New Zealand, especially in Jacinda's government? Because we read it over here in the UK, like she made a deal with them or something a few months ago, and people weren't happy, and they called her a sellout. And what's your opinion on that?
You know, I really don't know very much about that, and maybe it's because of the media over here, but I really don't have any knowledge about that I can discuss. To be honest, it may be true, maybe not. So I just have to draw a blank on that one, Paz.
Yeah, fair enough. What about QAnon? Because a lot of people who are you one of these QAnon people?
No,
you're not. I'm not. No, I called that out when it started. It was just I always saw it as a stupid conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of it going on down there as well. With regards to Lee Williams isn't one, but a lot of his friends, who I can't remember I
think Damien Dement.
That's it, Damien Dement. He's one, isn't he?
Yeah, he speaks very powerfully. He's very opinionated. Certainly,
is he a Canadian?
I think he's American. I think he's United States. I think, but I think he in the past he's read a lot of QAnon stuff, you know. And when it comes to, I mean, when it comes to where I get my sort of politics and opinions, if you like, from, I just find that you don't necessarily need to delve into things like QAnon or anything that's controversial. You can just look at what the government's doing and push back and say, look, you've signed this safe, orderly, and regular migration compact. I don't agree with it, because I don't agree with it. It's nothing to do with democracy. It was drafted by people we didn't elect, who don't live here. And signed by politicians who never gave us a referendum or said that they were going to do this in their manifestos, and just stuff like that. And the fact that we now have a parliament that's basically, it's not a parliament, you know, democracy here. Where is democracy here in New Zealand? This is good enough to push back. For me, you know, you have the Ashley Bloomfield, the Director General of Health, passing these mandates and throwing people out who they were on their ear onto the unemployment heap, like nurses, you know, who were being applauded only a year ago. You know, in the UK, people standing on their doorsteps giving them a clap. So anyway, look, I don't feel like I need to sort of delve into these things to have enough to push back.
Exactly.
Against the government. But no, QAnon, I've never delved into it. I don't really read it. I guess I'm, you know, compared to some people on this side of politics, I'm probably what you might describe as a bit of a normie.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, watching your channel and stuff, you know your stuff. You don't do anything. You say nothing extreme. You're definitely not a white supremacist. You're not a racist. Just our conversation. I can call you conservative, couldn't I? Yeah,
I think so. Conservative, libertarian, and basically, you know, as time's gone on over here, I've been here 10 years, you know, and I've seen what's happening Europe and in New Zealand, it's just made me more and more skeptical about big state government, the overreach of government, centralized power. It was one of my reasons for voting leave in the referendum, in the Brexit referendum. Simply just a natural skepticism about the concentration of a huge amount of power with a small amount of people, and that it just corrupts. It just corrupts.
Sorry, but do you find that Jacinda's, I mean, not just Jacinda, but the Parliament over there, do they just push through legislation and like important stuff like, have you got a vaccine mandate down there? Is it mandated yet? Or, well, you've got a two-tier system, haven't you? Two-tier society, she said so. Do they just push things through without a referendum there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's I can talk just for a minute or so, if you like, about the mandates. So we have a piece of legislation called the COVID-19 Public Health Response Act, and under that act, I don't even know. I mean, that's a general overarching umbrella act, and I think it was passed about a year ago or more. And under that, I don't even know if it was voted on. In fact, I don't think it was. I'm not sure. Anyway, what that act does is allow the Director General of Health, who is one person, Ashley Bloomfield, who is unelected, by the way, to pass orders. Now, these orders can be anything. They can be mandating jabs for a profession. They can be locking down a region. They can be putting an internal border across the country, as exists here. I don't know if your viewers know this. We have an internal border to the north of Auckland, and people are not allowed to cross it.
Oh, I've no idea.
Yes, there's an internal border. Police patrol it. Anyway, I can talk about that in a minute. Write it down. You can talk about. Anyway, so the mandate. So there are mandates which have been put in, and it's interesting that we're talking now because November the 15th is a key date for many professions to have their first jab, or basically face the sack, or not be allowed onto the premises where they do their job. So the mandated groups include teachers, airport workers, aircrew, port workers, health workers, so that's all nurses, care workers, and prison officers. The prison officer mandate's already gone through. Now, so the 15th of November is a key date for health workers and teachers. So on Telegram here in New Zealand, there is a lot of chatter between the teachers. They're trying to, these poor people, simply for their choice of not wanting to have an injection into their body, are facing loss of the livelihood and loss of being able to work in the profession they love. So 15th of November, which is next week, in a couple of days' time, nobody really knows. Nobody really knows, because admitting that you're unvaccinated is, I don't know. It's pretty much like admitting that you're a Satanist here in New Zealand. So people have been
Jew in 1930s Germany. I'll say it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, these are the mandates that have been passed under this act, and they come into effect. And they're already in effect, but the teeth start to bite 15th of November. Now, nobody really knows, as I say, how many teachers or nurses or other people in those professions are going to be facing not being able to do their job. And we're already in a situation in New Zealand where we're short of nurses and teachers. They are in demand professions. And so these, in a nutshell, they're the mandates that are in place now. And I mean, what's ironic about it, of course, is that Jacinda is supposed to be a feminist prime minister, you would imagine, and yet she's mandated that you must take a vaccine in two of the most heavily female-dominated industries, which is nursing and teaching. And at the recent gathering in Cranmer Square in Christchurch only 2 weeks ago, I met a few teachers, and I asked them, "Did you vote for Jacinda Ardern?" And they said yes, they did. So Jacinda has no issue with throwing her voters under the bus, especially female voters.
No, people are the left. They'll throw demographics under the bus if there's a bigger demographic they can get the vote from. They've done it here in the UK. They have thrown biological women under the bus in order to please trans and Islamists, really, and get the bigger vote. It's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, you might have. So we're moving on to another subject, but anyway, that's in a nutshell. That's the mandates.
Yeah.
Here, but also maybe before we move away from that, we're also looking at passports, vaccine passports here.
All right. Okay.
Like gyms, theaters, restaurants. There's there's a mood in the government to pass those through, and there is a drumbeat in the media. We often find that we get a little bit of a drumbeat in the media, which primes the population up for, hey, vaccine passports may be needed. Hey, the government are discussing vaccine passports. So they ease you into, they normalize it in the minds of the population, and then boom, the legislation comes out. So in terms of a two-tier society, if you're vaccinated and not vaccinated, there's certain professions at the moment you can't work in. And then there's also maybe the everyday things like going to shops, some restaurants, gyms, theaters. There are festivals, music festivals here, which you won't be allowed into unless you've got a vaccine passport. So the two-tier society is alive and kicking. And maybe we should mention the lady who went to the doctors recently.
Okay,
yeah. Just as an example. So this isn't just theoretical. There was a Japanese lady who went to her doctor, and I'm just going to read out. I mean, I don't know if you can. Maybe you shouldn't try and share screen. I'm not going to try and share screen, otherwise we might just crash the whole bloody.
Okay, yeah, best not. I'm a technophobe. Worst thing I could do, I could just bring the whole thing down.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out this is just, anyway, you can't see it. This is a Facebook post.
Yeah, sure.
From a lady who went to visit her doctor here in New Zealand. It doesn't take very long to read.
Yeah,
her name is Akimi Kojima. I'm sure she won't mind me saying that because it's out on Facebook. She said, "Hi there, Chris Ipkins." So she's writing to her MP. Sorry, Chris Ipkins is the COVID-19 response minister. Anyway, she says, "Today I needed to visit the doctor due to pain in my cervix area." So bear in mind that this is an intimate examination. This isn't just like the fingertip that needs to be examined or something like that. This is the most intimate of examinations for a woman. Upon arrival to the clinic at North Harbour Medical Centre in Auckland, I was asked if I was vaccinated, to which I replied I was not. I was then told I was not allowed into the clinic, into the reception area or a regular doctor's room, and that I was to be seen in their garage due to legal reasons. Garage, where the cars are parked, where spiders and rats and mice run around. I needed to be seen ASAP, so decided to go down there around the back. The garage had not been cleaned nor set up very well, as you can see in the photo, and there is a photo attached to this. Spider webs everywhere on the garage door as well. I was then seen and my cervical area inspected in this environment. I was very uncomfortable, unhappy with this. I felt like a second-class citizen. Is this how we are to be treated in New Zealand? I would like to know why unvaccinated are to be treated in this way. That's on Facebook. Jesus. And that was what Cole Bromley did his video about on Facebook. Now, if there's anything that the mainstream media should be picking up, and broadcasting and raising awareness about, it is that kind of discrimination.
Yeah, of course it
again, is that kind of discrimination the kind of thing that people want their children to grow up with in this country? I don't.
Absolutely. I don't. Neither do I. I
mean, so it's real. So the two-tier society is real. I also know, like, one brief example, so I don't end up going on.
Yeah, sure.
There's a back specialist place here in Christchurch, that if you are not vaccinated, they will not allow you in for an examination. They will offer you a video examination. Now, how a back specialist, I don't know what they're going to do to get you to touch your toes. What do you do if you can't? Well, I don't know. at it. You know, here we are, two-tier society. Jacinda said she wanted to create it. She said this is exactly what it is. She agreed to those words. She smiled about it when she said it.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, if there's one thing you have to grant Jacinda, she's true to her word. She's creating it, and here we are. And I'm glad that I'm able to tell a few people over there in the UK just what's happening, because the direction of travel is not good, Paz.
It's not. Have you got enough time to tell us the story on your video? I watched your video earlier, your latest one, about the guy who got shot, and then they declared it a COVID death. Just tell us about that quickly.
Yeah, you know, it's you've got to take your laughs where you can. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes some of this stuff that you end up giggling about or finding funny it's dark humor.
Yeah,
it's very dark because someone has died. But there is a dark humor about a lot of this. So there was a report on the mainstream media, actually, one news, like for once, you know, they're giving something that goes a little bit against the narrative. And the reporter, a guy called Logan Church, was saying, there's a COVID death being reported as part of a homicide investigation. And I thought, aye, a homicide investigation. And yes, the man was shot, and he then died. And after he died, he was tested for COVID, and he's now included as part of the nation's COVID death tally. Jesus
Christ.
Yes, you heard that right, everybody. I'm just going to pause so that can soak into the listener's head. This is what was said, right? I'm just repeating what the reporter said, right? I haven't investigated this. I'm not the coroner or anything like that. And then the reporter said, do you know, many people will ask why someone who died in these circumstances, i.e. deadly bullet wounds, is included in the nation's death tally when it comes to COVID. Yes, a few people will ask. They may ask that question. And he said, the reason is because the World Health Organization say that if you die with COVID, then you're included as part of a nation's COVID death tally. Get this, no matter what the cause of death. They're the reported words, not mine. And has gone on to the World Health Organization, no matter what the cause of death. And I'm looking at this thinking, you know what, people, conspiracy theorists was old conspiracy theorists, right? We're saying this how long ago, Paz? I don't know, a year ago. They're saying you know, people who die with COVID, you know, people who die with COVID, but they the cause of death was something else. You know, they're being included on the nation's death certificates, but they may have been pointing to people who, for example, had, you know, 1.9 feet in the grave already because they were 95 years old with a terminal cancer, unfortunately, and then COVID was the final that pushed them into the grave. Whereas this guy seems to be a healthy guy who was shot dead, and he's part of the nation's COVID statistics. I mean, some people were asking all kinds of questions, you know, like, well, if the cause of death is COVID, won't the lawyer for the alleged murderers be able to say, look, it's COVID killed this guy?
Yeah, not the shooter. It was COVID. Why do you think they want to bump up the numbers for the plague then? Daft question, but your guess is as good as mine.
Well, I mean, I've heard it said. I mean, this isn't obviously. I mean, I've heard it said that maybe the reason to bump the numbers up is to make COVID, the COVID infection fatality rate worse than what it actually is, and therefore perhaps scare people into going and getting the vaccine. Now, I've heard people say that. You know, that isn't that obviously isn't something that I've come up with myself or necessarily my opinion, but. You know, it certainly would have the effect, if you were inflating the figures, of increasing the infection fatality rate and making the disease seem worse than it actually is, and therefore making people more likely to go and get a vaccine for which the vaccine companies are paid quite a bit of money. And you know, people often like circle around and go money and power in these issues. Oh, money and power. Follow the money type thing. there's no doubt about it, that vaccine companies are making billions, in taxation, transfer of taxation money during this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, and that media companies are being paid by here in New Zealand by the government, that is also, putting out pro-vaccine messaging stuff here in New Zealand. They were awarded a grant by Google to tackle so-called misinformation against the vaccine, which basically has the effect of encouraging people to go and get the vaccine. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah. Do you quickly talk about the borders you mentioned earlier before you have you got work after this?
No.
Oh, you're off? Okay.
Saturday, Paz.
Of course it is. Anyway, yeah, okay. You mentioned the borders earlier. No?
What did you think it was? Do you think it was Friday morning?
I did.
No, we're ahead of you, mate.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're not behind your head. Oh, God.
We're forward in time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk about just the one thing that is happening today is that there is another meeting in a place called Cranmer Square here in Christchurch, and I think these meetings are happening all over the country. So anyone who's been watching the progress of these gatherings / meetings / protests, they'll have seen numbers grow over the last few months, really. And 2 weeks ago here in Christchurch, there must have been 7,000, maybe close to 8,000. Bearing in mind, this is a city of only 300. Well, it's 300,000 and change for the suburbs. So that's quite a lot of people. That's quite a lot of people relative to, say, the size of something called like the size of a city called like London. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge amount. So it will be interesting to see if there's more people there now. So that's the thing that I'm gonna go to, but that's not for another hour or so. Oh. Anyway, the border. So there is a border that's been put in north of Auckland, and it's for some reason to seal off the area north of Auckland, which is called Northland. And there have been groups of Maori people going up there to try and get across the border to meet with their family and their whānau, which is the Maori word for larger family. They've been denied by the police to cross. This border is sealed. You can't get across unless you've got a good reason, government approved reason. So it's basically an internal border now that's been put there.
Yeah.
And to see, again, we have the so-called party of anti-colonialism and the side of politics, which is anti-colonial, and to see groups of Maori people doing the haka there, and Maori women there who just want to cross over, being barred by state policemen. These are largely tall white men. Yeah. When you have the party of anti-colonialism doing this, again, it's getting a bit rich, and it's just another example of the hypocrisy of the whole thing. And this isn't criticised either by politicians or the media.
Are the I wasn't say the natives then, the Maori,
Maori,
are they against the jab? Are they refusing the mandate, and are they a bit more militant about it than white folk?
Well, I think okay. Well, we are. I mean, in the vaccine statistics here, Maori appear to be the least vaccinated demographic. That's what we're being told. So again, like all groups, they don't. There isn't just one opinion, or they don't act with they don't act as one. There are various different opinions in the group, but Maori as a group, I understand, are the least vaccinated group. It may be in the region of 60% vaccinated, 40 to 30% unvaccinated, which is quite a lot. So again, we have and who knows why the Maori people who are not getting vaccinated, who knows why. Some of it may be simply based on a long-running skepticism and distrust and hatred of the crown and the state and the government, and you know, they may still see it as simply another thing imposed on them by colonialism. Who knows the reason? I haven't asked them all, but again, you know, the hypocrisy oozes out of this whole thing, because this government that is supposed to be against so-called systemic racism, you know, has now imposed passports and mandates on a country, and the most affected demographic, the most oppressed demographic, because of those policies, is the Maori. So they are guilty of systemic racism themselves.
Oh, yeah, of course, in that context, blimey. But nothing from the usual Twitter mob about that, because it's not.
No,
you know.
Paz, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah, of course you can. Sorry.
I don't know how much time we've got here.
As long as you want, mate. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure there's well, I would like to know. I have a stake still in the UK. I have friends and family there. My sister is my sister's a care worker, and she's not going to take the vaccine. She's about as against it as anyone could be. Right. And so she's facing job loss as well. So I have an interest in what's going on over there. So what I'm interested in is the passport. Is there a vaccine passport over there? Is it a reality? Is it being talked about, threatened? What's going on over there?
I believe it's a reality in Wales. You need a vaccine passport now to go to major events and other places, and I think they've got it in Scotland. I'm not too sure. As for England, we haven't got it, but from April next year, is it the Health Secretary Sajid Javid? He said that all care workers or all NHS staff have to be double jabbed, otherwise your job's gone. No ifs or buts, no excuses. So a lot of people are quite. You got mortgages to pay, rent to pay, food on the table, kids to feed and clothe, and all that, and they're putting this on him, and it's really unfair. This year and last year, we were clapping for the NHS on the doorsteps, right? And now they've been threatened with a sack. So far, they reckon up to 76,000 NHS staff will refuse the jab, and when that happens, the NHS will become a reduced service. So that's all I know about that one.
So, I mean, so that's a mandate for a profession, if you like, for NHS. What about in terms of vaccine passports for the population for things like going into football matches, theatres, restaurants?
It's not here yet in England, but I wouldn't put it past them, because this government is basically a U-turn after U-turn. I'm surprised Boris Johnson has let England be this free for this long. You know. I can probably see it next year.
There was one person that I spoke to who's in Manchester, who said that if I mean, these are his words, not mine, that I'm going to say. So you can give me your opinion on whether you think this is a fair reflection. He said that in England, if the government tries to bring in something like vaccine passports, you know, for access to things like football matches, rugby matches, theatres, restaurants, all that he thought there would be riots. There were too many people prepared to mobilize against that and push back. Is that overly optimistic? Is that realistic or not? It's
realistic, but you won't see riots to the scale of the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots we saw this year and last year. Or was it last year? With the George Floyd killing and all that. There are people in London at this very moment, but they're small pockets. The people here have been scared and subdued to a level that if they did anything foolish, then they'd simply lose their jobs and get targeted and lives destroyed. I think the people here are too cowed now to do anything and rise up. So, you know, they've done this about the NHS. There's no rights or nothing. And they'll bring the passports in and people just accept it. It won't happen. There might be a little flare up in London. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask the question, don't you? If we're in a pandemic, you know, why are governments making decisions that will reduce the number of health professionals?
Oh, because they're assuming they'll just roll over and take it. I think Because governments, they're all middle class, completely out of touch people, and they haven't got the mood of the people whatsoever. And they assume that people will just do stuff and stick to the law and stick to what they say. People won't be happy about it. There are people who don't work in NHS who think that giving them the double jab or their out mandate next year is just absolutely outrageous, And so, yeah.
I mean, I guess one question this raises in my mind is if the purpose of all of these mandates, for example, for let's take two examples: the NHS in the UK and Air New Zealand here in New Zealand, is to prevent the spread of COVID, for example, with an airline, and to protect vulnerable people in hospitals. Now, how can a vaccine mandate achieve that when we know for certain that vaccinated people can carry and can spread and pass on and even die of COVID-19, and that boosters are necessary? The proof that vaccinated people can carry and spread and pass on COVID is that boosters are required. So there will, at any one time, you will be guaranteed to have somebody who is double jabbed, for example, in a hospital, who is walking around infected with COVID. So it doesn't make sense to me, anyway, to say that this double jab mandate is something that we're doing to protect patients in a hospital, protect people in a care home. The other thing I just say about this is that here in New Zealand, Greg Foran is a guy who's a CEO of Air New Zealand. And he has said that he is going to mandate the vaccine for all of his staff, but all passengers. Now, he has also recently, I guess, sort of rode back a little bit from that and said that actually we will allow you to fly on Air New Zealand, which is 52% government owned here, by the way. So no surprise it's happening. We will allow you to fly if you have a negative test within 24, 48 hours. So what's very interesting, so if you're unvaccinated, you can have a negative test. If you're vaccinated, no problem, no need for a test. So the irony of all this, of course, is when Greg Foran says, I'm doing this to stop the spread of COVID, the only people that are 100% guaranteed to be stopping the spread of COVID via his airline are the unvaccinated who have had a negative test. Yeah. Now, people don't seem to see the stupidity and the irony in this. If you want to stop the spread of COVID, you got to test everybody, vaccinated or not. But of course, they're not going to do that because it'll piss the vaccinated people off.
Oh, they're taking their time with making sure everyone's vaccinated, considering there's a pandemic for the past, is it 2 years now? They're taking their time, aren't they? But my other half sister, she caught this. She caught the plague, right? And she's vaccinated, and she keeps catching it. And every time she catches it, it gets worse. So I think she's had it at least 3 times now. I might get corrected downstairs later. But, there's proof that why bother if you keep catching it anyway and you're getting worse? And these are questions you're not allowed to ask. And when you're not allowed to ask these questions, it makes you wonder even more, what the hell's going on?
Well, I mean, the fact that you can't get a sensible answer to these questions, these questions that we're raising, is one of the reasons why people say, to hell with it. I can't find out the truth about this vaccine. I'm simply not going to get vaccinated because I would. I mean, listen, I'm sure most people would if they thought they were getting honest, reliable, impartial information from trusted MPs, trusted media, trusted health professionals about the severity of the disease, the infection fatality rate of the disease for them as their demographic, and the risks associated with the vaccine itself. If people felt that they were getting that information, they'd probably get more people vaccinated.
Yeah, I completely agree. After all, do you get a booster jab for the influenza? I don't think you do you? You get the one shot in the winter and that's it. You don't get a booster jab for that. And that's still killing people.
Yeah, I mean, we still get the offer of free vaccines for flu over here in New Zealand. Yeah, still get that.
Why isn't that mandated? It's just completely nuts. Would you move back to the UK now, Ian, knowing what you know?
Maybe. I mean, I'm interested in freedom. I'm interested in being able to make a choice about what medications go into my body without a government, threatening me with becoming a second-class citizen. If the UK moves more towards that way, and New Zealand, assuming I can still get out of New Zealand, then I would consider it. But I mean, my life here is I have enjoyed my life here. I have a decent job. My commute is a bit easier than in a big city like Manchester, where I come from. The weather's better. One of my big loves is golf. The weather's great. Weather's great for golf. Living in the South Island here, you've got like A1 plus scenery in terms of world scenery. So there are a lot of positives, and those things are only being wrecked by, I don't know, but less than 100 people in the country who currently have power. But the question is, if you were looking to move, not just me, if anyone was looking to move to a country in the world where you had a bit more freedom and less of this government overreach, where would you actually go? It's not looking obvious to me that the UK is the natural choice. For that.
It's a watered down version of. I think you've got a Brenda Marxism down there, that's for sure. I mean, it's turning into North Korea, New Zealand. Everyone's talking about it, how draconian, and the cancel culture mob down there, and Jacinda Ardern is just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But before we go, I'm going to... Hey?
I was going to say, Kim Jong-un is coming over for a training course from Jacinda Ardern next week.
I bet he would, yeah. She could teach him a few things.
She's modelling this country on Kim Jong-un because she's got that border.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, is it the 38th parallel or 37th parallel? They call it, with landmines. They'll have landmines next. Anyway, thanks for popping on, Ian.
All right, Paz. No,
do you want to plug your book before you go?
All right, okay. Because people have been asking about it, right?
Yeah, they have. I've got the book. You've signed it for me.
This is the book. It's called 6 Politically Incorrect Essays. Now, you can only get it, and it says, there are essays on feminism, Islam, multiculturalism, Jacinda Ardern, a vote for Tommy Robinson, the EU, and more. So there's enough to cancel me, how many times? 6, 7 times?
Maybe Gulag for life, Ian. Gulag
chew
for
on
life.
that. Yeah, 25 life sentences. You can get it on Amazon, as it's only about £3. Doesn't cost very much. So made to be accessible. And you have to have a Kindle, so that you can't get a paper copy. But I'll tell you what. But I've got some paper copies here, a small pile. If people want to email me at 6pies@yahoo.com, that's SIXPIES, so 6 politically incorrect essays, 6pies@yahoo.com, I'll send you a free copy. And I might ask for, if you're in the UK, I might ask for a little bit of postage, or I might not, depending on how much chocolate I've eaten that day. But anyway, there you go. There's an offer. So send me an email if you want a free paper copy. Otherwise, it's Kindle version on Amazon.
Fantastic. Cheers for joining, Ian. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, very interesting.
And I'm glad we managed to get it working, and I'm not in deepest, darkest Canterbury.
Yeah. Indeed.
Keep up the great work, Paz. Keep up the great work. Cheers,
Doug. And same over there, mate. You just do what you do, because the more people like you we have over there and everywhere, the better. We can't be old cowards.
I'll get off to our meeting now, our little protest. Hopefully it's a bigger protest. I'll put some footage about that. It's in 1 hour.
Okay. All the best with that, mate. Catch you later.
Cheers,
Ta-ra. Right, that's it. That's Ian 174M. I will put the link into this video. I'll leave this video up. I don't know if YouTube will leave this video up because of what we were talking about. Because what we've been talking about tonight is forbidden. You're not allowed to. I'm guaranteed there'll be some people reporting this as they do. Thanks, Kate and the Curious Bunny, for being wonderful moderators. Thanks to everyone who contributed financially. What else was I going to say? Right, I'm off. I'm off to Curious Bunny's channel now. in a bit. She's on at 9:30. So I'll pop over there, have a quick chat with her and have a laugh. Hopefully nothing will go wrong this time, because the last time I chat with her, her rabbit got electrocuted. I mean rabbit, not the old. But there we go. Okay, Penny, I'll see you in a bit. Thanks for joining me. I've enjoyed this one. I'm trying to get another guest on for Sunday. If he comes on or not, who knows? But it'd be very interesting. It won't be anything we've ever talked about before, put it that way. Anyway, please share my stuff everywhere. Subscribe to what I do. I love you all, and Roger Trout.